morning to you. It is Saturday, November 19th. I'm Abby Huntsman, and Donald Trump looking to unify the party by meeting with one of his harshest critics, Mitt Romney. Could the former governor actually end up part of the Trump administration?
And what does the media think about President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General?
I don't know. What do they think, Ed?
I think I have an idea, and there's supposed to be a soundbite telling you, but you know what? Doesn't appear to be there.
Is a fringe choice.
He has been dogged with decades-old allegations of racism.
So there are fundamental concerns among Democrats about Jeff Sessions.
Oh, sounds very scary. But did anyone bother to actually check Jeff Sessions' record? We did. We'll have it in a moment.
Oh, so now it's my turn? Okay. All right. And Vice President-elect Mike Pence goes out for a well-deserved night in the town, only to get a lecture from Hillary's friends on Broadway.
We have a message for you, sir. We hope that you will hear us out. We are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us.
Oh, because that's exactly what he wants. And what we need is sermons from Broadway.
That happened?
And Kanye. That did happen. Thanks for being here. Mornings Better with Friends.
See us from all the way out there? Us little people in here?
Maybe.
Making some morning news?
You're tall.
Indeed. Well, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning, you guys. Happy
So
Saturday.
nice to be here with you.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me on the couch.
Thanks for coming all the way
always.
from Washington.
Hey, you always look so dapper.
Oh,
like
thank
you. Can pull that. I mean,
We're going to get you a pocket square for tomorrow. I'm going to bring you one.
Why is it that some guys wear them and other guys don't?
Some people have style, some people don't.
Yeah, I mean, no, you got.
No, wait, hang on. No.
You got to be able to own it and do it. Ed can. I can't. I can't pull it off.
You can do it great.
I love talking pocket squares, so we've got a lot to get to this morning.
Let's do
a
that.
lot of politics, starting with this. President-elect Donald Trump keeping up his busy schedule as he continues to fill out his administration. And today, he has got a meeting with former rival Mitt Romney at his golf course in New Jersey.
That's right. Garrett Tenney is live in Washington, D.C. with more on Romney's possible appointment. Garrett?
Hey, good morning, y'all. It was certainly a busy Friday for the Trump transition team. After naming 3 of the president-elect's cabinet picks, this weekend looks to be just as busy, even if the setting will be a bit more comfortable. Yesterday afternoon, Mr. Trump left New York City for Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey. And like a lot of business deals are done, his most high-profile meeting of the weekend will be on the golf course with former GOP nominee Mitt Romney. You'll remember Romney was openly against Trump throughout the primaries, but oh, how times have changed. Now Mr. Trump is said to be considering his one-time nemesis for one of his cabinet's most high-profile posts as Secretary of State. Yesterday evening, the president-elect previewed the weekend on Twitter, saying, "We'll be working all weekend in choosing the great men and women who will be helping to make America great again." This afternoon's meeting with Romney continues a trend, really, that we've seen over the past 2 weeks of Mr. Trump bringing in a whole host of people for advice as well as to be considered for spots in his administration. And we're told part of this weekend's meetings will also include discussions with the transition team over another top cabinet post that's still vacant, Secretary of Defense. So a lot of big decisions on tap for this weekend.
Yeah.
Back to y'all.
Indeed.
Thank you, Garrett.
Garrett, thank you.
Can you believe we're here? I mean, I remember watching this speech that Mitt Romney gave in my home state of Utah, the University of Utah, where he laid out all the reasons why Mr. Trump was going to be dangerous for this country. And hearing today, you have the two of them breaking bread together. Now, Mr. Trump is going to be our next president. Mitt Romney, I think this is actually a really nice moment of coming together. And Mr. Trump saying, you know what? Above all else, we can forgive one another. I need your expertise. I want to listen to all the smart people out there and get this right. I think it's pretty endearing.
And there's a pattern here for the president-elect. I think it's maybe only twice this week, but still important. He did it with Ted Cruz as well. They sat down at Trump Tower. Remember Ted Cruz, famously, infamously maybe, at the Republican convention, still would not endorse Donald Trump and was being booed, was being, heckled basically. Like, what are you doing? He's being coronated this week and you won't get on board. And he wanted to stick to his guns, Ted Cruz. But then they sat down this week and Ted Cruz is saying he'd like to be a member of the team.
Right,
he came on Fox and Friends a couple days ago. So if Mitt Romney feels that way as well, you got to bury the hatchet, because if Donald Trump wants to spend 4 years fighting on Twitter with Mitt Romney and others, it could be a waste of his time.
But it's an easy media story, Pete. Right,
now.
People love to make controversy.
Oh, of course. But these, let's be clear, these folks are coming hat in hand, no doubt. I mean, Donald Trump won this election with the support of the people, but this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I mean, Donald Trump, his track record in business and elsewhere is as a consensus builder, in reaching out. It's who everyone says in private when he wants to He wants to be the type of person that brings people together. This should surprise absolutely nobody. He's doing the right things to bring the type of folks in that he would want. I don't know that it means Mitt Romney's going to get a position.
Right.
It just means, hey, let's have the conversation and move forward.
I love how everyone speculates so quickly. Oh, it's going to be Secretary of State. We don't know that yet.
Well, it's interesting, though, because the mainstream media had this narrative a couple days ago of disarray for the transition. They're not picking anybody.
Well,
8 days later,
the narrative changes, and they're actually picking a whole bunch of people who have strong qualifications. And now the narrative is changing to the opposite of what Pete was saying about bringing people together. Now the media is saying it's all about division. When you look at Jeff Sessions, the senator from Alabama, picked for Attorney General, take a look at what Luis Gutierrez, the congressman from Illinois, had to say. Watch this.
It's actually a full screen.
Oh, it's full screen. All right, go ahead.
It said, if you have nostalgia, this is a Democratic congressman from Illinois, says, and I quote, if you have nostalgia for the days when blacks kept quiet, gays were in the closet, immigrants were invisible, and women stayed in the kitchen, then Senator Jefferson Bogard Sessions is your man. Now, to be clear, it's only been a day and a half since Donald Trump picked Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General. Yeah. This is a man who's been in the United States Senate for 20 years, is well known across the aisle, and the only charge the left can level, and they've leveled time and time again, is racist.
Yeah.
And they're doing it from the rooftops. I mean, you're seeing it in the pages of the New York Times today.
Right.
I was
And we're
going to
seeing it
say,
across
Pete,
the
it's
media
not
as
just
well.
Democrats. We're now hearing this from mainstream media. Take a listen to this.
Senator Jeff Sessions has accepted Trump's offer to be his AG, but he will now face questions about his record on civil rights.
But he has been dogged with decades-old allegations of racism.
So there are fundamental concerns among Democrats about Jeff Sessions and sort of how he would tackle some of these issues, racial issues, issues of hate crimes.
If you're going to get a couple of loyalists that have said some crackpot things in the past, you sure as hell better have some very steady hands at state, at defense, and at Treasury, or this goes into a full-blown meltdown.
Okay, a couple things. When you were reading before, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, I guess Beauregard, not a name of it, but it's named after a Confederate general. And so the middle name,
right? Did he choose his name?
No, he didn't. But the media is now using his middle name. But if you use Barack Obama's middle name, you were being unfair, even though that's his name. It's Hussein is his middle name, right? Okay. Move on. Let me go to the next point, which is that, yes, Jeff Sessions, it should be noted, he was blocked after Ronald Reagan nominated him to a federal judgeship because of very controversial statements he made on race. And he's going to have to answer for those. I don't think anybody should.
That's fine, though. That is fine. Democrats, that's what they should do. When you have a Senate confirmation, you should be able to ask questions that you're concerned about. What I'm concerned about is why the media seems to be so open now to throwing around the word racist.
Of course.
Every corner.
It's a default
But you know what you have to look at more than words is actions. And when you look at Senator Sessions, you look at his past and what he actually has done in the state of Alabama, where he's very well liked, very well respected in that state. He really worked at desegregating the schools there, and for the KKK, got the death penalty for the KKK, the head of the KKK.
Right, when he was the Attorney General.
It's a very diverse state as well. To get elected there, you've got to have support of multiple constituencies. As you said, he filed cases to desegregate Alabama schools as U.S. Attorney General, and then he prosecuted
as a state Attorney General.
As a state Attorney General, prosecuted a Klansman, the son of the Alabama Klan leader, for abducting and killing a black teenager at random, insisted on the death penalty. Insisted on it.
I'm not seeing that in the New York Times story.
You're not seeing that?
Did that really happen?
I'm sorry. No, I mean, this is a guy who has gone
That part's
after,
not being mentioned.
No, it's not being mentioned at all. Talk to his colleagues. Talk to folks on Capitol Hill. There's been some great interviews where they pushed folks calling him a racist. There's no evidence there. It's just name calling.
You know what, though?
And confusion.
One thing he has done for Mr. Trump, he has been loyal to him. He was one of the first out of the gate to support Mr. Trump. He has been helpful along the way on policy, also very helpful in picking Mike Pence for vice president. So what Mr. Trump is looking for is, we've seen, I think, a common thread here. He's looking for someone that is loyal to him, someone that has a similar vision of the world and where our place is in the world, and also the best person for that job, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. Who is best suited? He wants to win, right? Sure. Mr. Trump wants to win. He wants the best people around him. I think that's what we're seeing.
Well, you see it with Mike Flynn, too, the lieutenant general who has now been picked to be national security advisor. He's made controversial statements about Muslims, and so there was this concern within the transition team he's not going to be able to be confirmed because Democrats are going to just go after him.
Oh, you mean the lifelong Democrat who's appointed twice by Barack Obama, who's the one who threw the flag about ISIS when no one else would? Michael Flynn has been clear-eyed about the threat of radical Islam. Right. So what is the left going to want to say? They're going to want to say he's an Islamophobe.
Right.
And they are saying that from the rooftops right now. And what I think these picks reflect is that Donald Trump is serious about what he ran on. I mean, if you're not going to appoint Jeff Sessions unless you really want to get illegal immigration under control. example. The guy was a leader on it. You're not going to appoint Michael Flynn unless you really want to confront ISIS and radical Islam. These guys have said things about it. They've been honest about it. They're going to be, their confirmation hearings will be about it. But I think it's, for those that supported Trump, a signal that he meant what he said.
You know what I see this as is Democrats got spanked at the polls last week. They did. I mean, that's what happened, right? And so now they're sitting there, they don't have anything to work off of. And so when you see these picks coming through, they're wondering, what can we do? What can we do to hit back? What can we find on these people? Because they've got nothing else.
They're going to go after some of these nominees. And that's, in fact, why Lieutenant General Flynn was not nominated for Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. He's appointed National Security Advisor. You avoid that fight.
And your New York Times today, which you mentioned a couple of times, also mentions that Iraqis and those fighting ISIS welcome the comments of Michael Flynn because he actually will call the enemy what it is. Ironic that our allies on the front lines want someone
you can see the
call it.
Right there.
There it is. ISIS welcomes Trump's stance on ISIS, but fear it may backfire. Well, we'll see. But
and this is just beginning because cabinet picks are coming fast and furious.
Is that the New York Times being transparent now?
It's
Wasn't that supposed to happen like a week ago?
Yeah, they said they had a special letter that they wrote.
Don't hold your breath, Abby.
All right, we do have some other headlines to get to this morning. Starting with this, a Fox News alert. At least 4 people killed instantly when their plane crashes into a parking lot, exploding into a fireball. One of those passengers, a heart patient, being flown from northern Nevada to the University of Utah hospital. Several cars exploding on impact, forcing evacuations at a nearby senior living complex. No other injuries were reported. The cause of the crash is still being investigated. A dramatic hours-long SWAT standoff developing through the night after a man barricades himself inside a home with his son. Police in San Diego say the tense scene began when the man opened fire inside the house. We just got word that the little boy was released. Police still working to communicate with the suspect through social media. And now to extreme weather, a warning. A deadly blizzard is moving from the Midwest towards the Northeast. Heavy snowfall, can you believe we're here? And wind gust up to 60 miles an hour, creating whiteout conditions in the Dakotas and Minnesota. Minnesota State Patrol responding to more than 340 crashes, at least 2 of them
Minnesota. We know how to
drive. Do you? And live from New York, it is Alec Baldwin.
I won the debate. I stayed calm, just like I promised, and it is over. Good night, Hofstra.
Well, the actor is returning to SNL tonight, reprising his role as our future commander-in-chief. Baldwin telling Vanity Fair that his portrayal of the president-elect won't happen all that often. He told the magazine that he didn't reprise his role as the president-elect right after the election because he had family commitments. That makes me happy because he's very good.
He is good. I don't know if he had family commitments or if he was in a cry.
He's got a job for 4 years. He's glad that Trump won.
It's true.
Right, man.
All right, coming up, President-elect Donald Trump is making appointments to a number of high-ranking positions, but who will finally be named to fill the rest of his cabinet? Caitlin Huey-Burns from Real Clear Politics is breaking it all down next. There she is.
There she is at the chalkboard, and we may not have seen the last of Hillary Clinton. The new call for President-elect Trump to interview her for a job in his administration. Is she coming in after Romney? Maybe they'll play golf together.
Wow, that's really breaking bread. Welcome back. Well, potential candidates have roamed the halls of Trump Tower all week long to see President-elect Donald Trump as he filled some high positions in his administration, but he still has some hard choices to make for his cabinet. Here with a look at some more possible appointments is Real Clear Politics national political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Good morning, Caitlin. Good to have you here.
Good morning. Good to be here.
So
Thank you.
Speculation continues. We love this, don't we?
Although we do have some answers now.
We do. One weekend, we've got, 5 of these guys that are we know have been asked and have agreed to do it.
Right.
The next big one, Secretary of State. There's been a lot of speculation about Romney, about others. Who's that going to go to?
Exactly. That is the biggest question in Washington right now, and it's kind of become a parlor game of sorts. Mitt Romney, actually, today is going to be meeting with Donald Trump in New Jersey, and he's been considered a possibility, although people from the Trump transition team have told us that, look, he's meeting with a lot of different people, some to take their advice and counsel, others to actually interview for the position. Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina, of course, has also been mentioned perhaps for that post. We know she's been critical of Trump in the past, ended up voting for him, but she might be an interesting choice, and a woman, because there isn't much diversity on this board yet.
And Secretary of State's a big one because you've got to be able to see somewhat eye to eye on the big issues. I look at someone like Mitt Romney and his feelings on Russia and how that's quite different from Mr. Trump.
And this is the thing. A lot of the traditional Republican people who are part of past administrations or ran before don't see eye to eye on some certain things.
This one's interesting. Secretary of Defense. Petraeus' name came up General Petraeus yesterday.
Exactly.
What do you think of that?
You know, Donald Trump talks about him a lot. Of course, has some controversy of the past, but also Trump has talked about bringing people in who aren't kind of the conventional picks, and Petraeus, of course, would have that experience. And also, James Mattis is going to be meeting former Marine General James Mattis, retired, of course, also mentioned possibly for that post. He's going to be meeting with Trump this weekend as well. And Tom Cotton, freshman senator from Arkansas, has also been mentioned possibly.
Yeah, that's another
as an interesting choice.
He's a younger guy.
He's a veteran, of course, freshman senator, Harvard law degrees and such. So he would be an interesting choice, and he's been in and out of there, as we've seen.
All right, DHS secretary.
Well, David Clark, the Milwaukee former Milwaukee
good
sheriff,
friend of us here.
right? Exactly, and he had a primetime spot at the convention. He's been part of the administration of the campaign. As you mentioned, you know, Trump really honors loyalty and people who have been there with him from the beginning. That could be a choice. Of course, Mike McCall, chairman of the House committee, and he is also mentioned as a pick, has been lauded by colleagues, very well liked on Capitol Hill, would be interesting for that choice as well.
And Tom Price has been mentioned for HHS.
This is a really interesting choice. So he's chairman of the Budget Committee, of course, but he has been one of the leading opponents of Obamacare, has actually proposed alternatives in the House, was kind of the architect of the repeal and replace plan. So he would be an interesting choice and is considered kind of a leading contender.
A lot of speculation.
Lots more to fill in this
we'll know
board.
soon enough, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much.
All right, coming up, Nancy Pelosi's job may be in danger, but she just got a huge endorsement from the GOP. And liberals are already bashing Trump's newest administration members as racist. Didn't they learn anything about throwing labels from the election?
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, a trade agreement not expected to survive under President-elect Trump. And House Republicans, get this, Republicans begging Nancy Pelosi to remain as the Democratic minority leader, thanking her, sarcastically you may think, for toxic comments that she made like this about Obamacare.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Well, that was a doozy. The NRCC officially endorsing her, saying her leadership would be disastrous for Democrats after Republicans picked up nearly 50 seats in the House since 2010. She is being challenged by Ohio Representative Tim Ryan. Interesting endorsement. Ed?
Interesting indeed. Thanks, Pete. Democrats doubling down, slamming President-elect Donald Trump's most recent administration picks as, you guessed it, racist, and now urging him to reconsider the appointment of Senator Jeff Sessions. Watch this.
Senator Sessions was vetted for a federal judgeship several years ago. And at that time, it became quite public that he made jokes about the KKK, that he made racial slurs, used racial slurs, that he said things that caused not just Democrats, but people in his own party, Republicans, to say this is a man who is not fit to be a federal judge.
Strong words from Senator Elizabeth Warren. Despite that continued criticism, Sessions is still getting some bipartisan support from senators like Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia. And it's still expected he'll get confirmed, though we'll have to see how it all plays out. Here to discuss, Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha and senior writer for Opportunity Lives, political analyst Carrie Sheffield. Chuck, I wanted to start with you because I wonder what happened in the campaign to this whole idea that Michelle Obama had the refrain, when they go low, we go high. What happened?
Well, you have a lot of Democrats who got a lot of scars on them. I think Abby said it good while ago. We got our you-know-what handed to us in an election. You got a lot of people out there who are mad. Now, as Americans, we should hold everybody that he appoints accountable, whether they're from the left or the right. That's our job. And if he said racist things in his past, it should be brought to the forefront. But it should also be mentioned that he was one of the few Republicans that voted for Eric Holder. In all of the research that you do, you should be out there talking and looking at this is your government and making sure they're held accountable. All the name calling is going to happen no matter who he's going to pick. But I think right now we should be business as usual as far as who we're going to have there.
Carrie, what do you think about all that?
Well, I think Pete just said it best. The fact that the Democrats are hugging Nancy Pelosi says that they are going to stay in the minority. The fact of the matter is that Obamacare is the reason the Tea Party was created, which is the reason that Donald Trump will be our president. So if you want to take and keep that hard left going, keep what you're doing, folks. I'm just giving you some free advice.
Now, Chuck, obviously, the comments that Senator Jeff Sessions made decades ago, we should point out, when he was in Alabama, long before he was in the United States Senate, it's going to come up at his confirmation hearing. He's going to have to answer for it, no doubt about it. But look at what happened in the last campaign with Hillary Clinton. Watch.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up.
So, Chuck, I just keep hearing now, President-elect Trump, Democrats are saying he's got to change the things he did in the campaign when he won. Meanwhile, Democrats went to this racist label again and again, lost the election, and now it seems to me you're going right back to it.
During the campaign, it was a long campaign season. As you know, I worked for Bernie Sanders, and there was a lot of name calling on both sides. I remember crooked Hillary and lying Ted and all of the above. What people need to realize now is that when you win elections, you get to pick whoever you want to pick. And for those 46 million Americans out there that sat home who was either mad at crooked Hillary or didn't like crooked Donald, now you're getting what you paid for. Elections matter, and when you get to win, you get to pick who you want. But as Americans, we get to hold them accountable, but this is how elections work.
And Carrie, final thought from you about what Donald Trump's incoming administration is going to have to do with the onslaught they're going to be facing.
Well, I didn't agree with everything that Donald Trump said, but he has been a class act this entire time. So, Chuck, please, free advice to you guys, tone it down, realize that everyone who voted for Donald Trump is not those horrible labels that Hillary Clinton put on them. The fact of the matter is that people are upset. People have lost their jobs. Obamacare is spiking insurance costs. There's so many problems with Democratic governance, and the fact of the matter is the party has taken a sharp left turn. If Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are your new faces, then you're going to be in the permanent minority.
Well, we're going to have to see, to quote that wise sage again, Abby Huntsman, to see who has their you-know-what handed to them in the days ahead. I think Chuck already did that. Thanks for doing that, Chuck. Rosha, Carrie Sheffield, we'll have you back soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
The Broadway hit Hamilton welcomed Hillary Clinton with open arms. So what happened? Why is it that when the vice president-elect tried to enjoy a night out in town, why did this happen?
We, sir, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us. Our planet.
Mike Pence wanted a family outing. He got a liberal lecture instead. We'll have that next. And should you check your bag or carry it on before you travel this Thanksgiving? Courtney Scott has the travel secrets you have not heard yet. And Abby's going to learn about it first.
Some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's float down
the show. So, Vice President-elect Mike Pence went with his family last night to see...
Just down the street here.
Just down the street, the Broadway show we've all heard about. I've actually been to see it, Hamilton, which is actually a very good show.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
It ended up, though, getting political and got, frankly, awkward for him
when
and
he
his
walked
family.
in, he's there with his wife and I think his children, because there were multiple people and there's Secret Service around him. And people start booing. There were some people applauding, but people posted video online. You could see the family there, and he's waving, and that must have been after, and people are booing. You hear them yelling at him.
And they go, so the show starts, and this happens. Here, take a listen to the clip. This is a member of the crew.
Vice President-elect Pence, we welcome you, and we truly thank you for joining us here at Hamilton, an American Musical. We really do. We, sir, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights, sir. But we truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us.
So this is awkward. So that's Leslie Odom Jr. He plays Aaron Burr, which is one of the main characters in this play. And my first reaction, Pete, was just, how sad is this? That here you have Mike Pence who's taking his family. They're trying to just enjoy a Friday night and see a great musical. And this happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hypocrisy of the way the left works. We all want to have fun until the other guy loses, and then I'm going to preach to you, and I'm going to tell you you're a racist. Yeah. This is the diverse American in Midtown Manhattan elites that are going to now preach to you about what America wants.
At least it was civil. He did say, look, we appreciate you being here, we respect you, but then, you're right, it was a litany of, we have no respect for you. We don't believe you're going to protect our kids. I mean,
just don't say that.
Mike Pence is a father too.
All you can say is, I hope that this play inspires you to do what's right for the country. That is fine to say. You don't need to go down that road. What I will say is Hillary Clinton went to this play, I think, a number of times during the campaign. She got a standing ovation.
Yeah, I think they had a fundraiser with the cast or something, and there they are hanging out. And
different reaction.
You know what might be the best ending to all this for Mike Pence is that I believe it was Alexander Hamilton who was coming up with the idea of the Electoral College.
Yes.
So Mike Pence
wrote about it in the Federalist Papers.
Yeah. You know what?
I guess that's revenge.
You know what? They won.
You know,
that's what he can say.
Well, he can also say this. He'd be like, and I'm the vice president. Okay, so it's
kind of a
do me all you want. I'm the vice president.
But you know what? Good for him. He walked out smiling.
Yeah.
You know what? But still, trying to have a good night with his family.
Let him have a good night with his family.
Let's just put politics aside for just 5 minutes, can't we?
Preach to me more.
All right, we do have some other headlines to get to this morning. Starting with this, a desperate search for answers this morning after a young mother is shot and killed and her newborn child abducted. Police in Wichita, Kansas now frantically searching for her week-old daughter and asking the public for help. This little girl has been missing since Thursday, and her father arriving home to find his girlfriend was murdered. The FBI sending a team specializing in child abductions to assist in that case. So far, there are no credible leads. What a horrible story. And an American pledging support to ISIS wants his case thrown out because of free speech. Mohammed El-Shinway was arrested in December and charged with providing material support to the terror group. Federal prosecutors say he received thousands of dollars from terrorists to carry out an attack in the United States. His lawyers claiming that he never intended to carry out an attack and that his alleged pledge of support is protected under his First Amendment rights.
Oh, yeah.
A federal judge will rule on that case. Really? Really?
I think Pete wants to file.
Wow, all right. And is there space on President-elect Donald Trump's team for Hillary Clinton? At least one New York congresswoman is hoping that is the case. Representative Carolyn Maloney, whose district includes New York's Trump Tower, says Clinton should serve as UN ambassador for the Trump administration. She says Clinton will never stop working and that she, quote, will always be a part of the dialogue in a positive way to advance the values of America. The president-elect has not commented yet on that idea.
I love delusion.
His comment might be, after you apologize for calling me a racist and a xenophobe. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, where does it end?
Well, Rick Reitmuth is outside doing some weather for us. And Rick, we've been talking about potentially a blizzard this weekend. Some people have already received snow, like in Minnesota.
Yeah, we got it all over Minnesota. What do we got, Rick?
Yeah, how was it, Pete?
It didn't hit my house, so I got to be clear.
So you're
but outstate
fine.
Minnesota got hit. Yeah, we're loving it.
Yeah, it was just kind of to the northwest of you. Snow still going on from the same storm, but most of the energy is pulling off towards the north. So that is good news. Moving into Canada. Take a look at the weather map. Show you what's going on. Temperature-wise, it is cold behind that. 12 degrees right now in Rapid City, 21 in Denver. It is still mighty warm across parts of the east. We have one more warm day across areas of the east. Take a look at this also that we still have some snow that's going to be across parts of the UP of Michigan. Out in front of that, it is rain, but behind it, cold air moves in, and we're going to be looking at some lake effect snow that we're going to be dealing with, especially in parts of Michigan throughout the day. And by later this afternoon, it's going to move in across areas of western New York over towards the Buffalo area. Get ready for the big first lake effect snowstorm coming up as well. All right, guys, we'll send it back to you inside.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Over the river and through the woods, then fly to grandmother's house this Thanksgiving.
So what is the best way to get to the table in time for turkey? Some turkey talk.
Joining us now, Expedia travel expert Courtney Scott. She's here with all your Thanksgiving travel do's and don'ts. Good morning, Courtney.
Good morning.
Good to have you here. All right, let's start with the do's. What should people do for next week to be prepared?
Well,
make sure they make it on time.
That's right. If you're one of the 43.5 million people driving this year,
wow,
you do need to know when to go, right? And there are days that are better and days that are worse. First of all, Thanksgiving Day is a great day to travel, especially in the morning hours. And Black Friday, another great day to get out for less congestion on the roads and at the airports. We want to know the worst days? Well, Sunday, the absolute worst day to get out. Waze,
our favorite.
If you want to come home, it's the busiest day. Waze reports a 240% increase in traffic jams and 100% increase in traffic accidents.
Oh, wow. Stay off
Not
the
a
road
time many of us want to be out on that.
So don't travel all the days that you would normally think it makes sense to travel.
Unless you work in television or somewhere else where you work holidays and then you can travel on like a Friday.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, what about the airports? Because they can be a zoo.
Well, it's important to get to the airport with lots of extra time, especially if weather is impacting your area. 2 hours in advance for domestic flights, 3 hours in advance for international flights,
airport, I recommend taking mass transit rather than driving your car to the airport. Parking lots fill up very fast. If you have to drive your car, reserve that spot online in advance to save some time.
What about checking luggage? That's a big one for people.
Yeah,
if you have a big family and you're traveling, you got a lot of stuff.
Abby travels with like 10 dresses. So
It's only
Ed, don't spill my secrets. Come on.
It's a 3-day weekend. You really don't need to check baggage. Those baggage drop lines are getting longer and longer. You'll also save time if you just use carry-on on the tail end of your trip, not waiting to pick up your bag at the luggage carousel.
What if I want to put one of my 3 kids in the bag just to make it easier?
That's up to you.
So that's a whole other story. We're calling the authorities, buddy.
They don't allow that to go through security.
Well, yeah, traveling with kids is, I know a lot of folks out there would be traveling with kids too. You got to get there earlier. It gets out of control.
Yeah. But speaking of TSA security, it's important to have TSA pre-check. I say this every year, but around the holidays.
The best thing ever. But don't tell people that, because then everyone gets TSA pre-check, and then that line is longer than the normal line.
It's true. Abby. It's $85 for a 5-year membership. You can breeze through, not take off your shoes, leave that laptop in the bag. Really great.
But if you don't have it yet, you won't have it for Thanksgiving.
You won't have it,
so you better start now.
Yeah.
Courtney Scott, we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Courtney.
Chaos, turmoil, disarray. We're not talking about airports. We're talking about the mainstream media showing no signs of ending the attacks on President-elect Trump's transition. We'll compare the coverage to this administration incoming to administrations past next.
And are you one of the millennials that's been protesting our next president? What if we told you there's a good chance you'll be voting for his re-election in 4 years? You're going to stick around. We're going to explain why.
On election night.
Arguably a landslide for Hillary.
Hillary Clinton's going to win in a landslide.
He's going to lose by a landslide. We could be talking landslide.
Now, the mainstream media can't take back these poor predictions, and they don't appear to be backing down from the bias on President-elect Trump's transition moves either, with headlines calling it chaotic and in turmoil and in a state of disarray. Here to react is Deputy Opinion Editor for the Washington Times, Kelly Riddell. Kelly, thanks for joining me this morning.
Good morning.
Why can't they hold back, and why are they so ferocious in declaring it disarray?
Well, I think that the mainstream media has a preconceived notion. They want to paint Trump out and the Trump administration out as being chaotic and disarray. CNN had a headline last night saying it was a roller coaster ride. The Economist today has a headline that says most transitions are chaotic, but Trump's is especially so. So they just want to drive home this narrative that basically reaffirms their notion that a Trump presidency would be a disaster.
Yeah, but there have been these mini mea culpas, right? The New York Times kind of tried it. Some folks on CNN have kind of tried it. Is it possible? I mean, can you rebaptize yourself as some sort of independent journalist, or can they just not help themselves?
I don't think they can help themselves. I mean, some of the more helpful assessments is comparing this administration to past transitions.
Yeah.
And CBS did this in a brief story. Barack Obama at this time, in 2008, he hadn't named any cabinet position yet in the first 2 weeks after he won the election. The only staff position he named was his chief of staff, of Rahm Emanuel. And then quickly came David Axelrod as a chief advisor.
Yes.
He did not name a cabinet pick until the end of November, and that was the Treasury Secretary.
Kelly, you're perfect. We'll put David Axelrod's tweet up very quickly. He tweeted about that, saying by this time in 2008, we hadn't made any major appointments, and I don't remember being criticized for it at all. So we're giving him plenty of time, but Donald Trump's got to rush right away. Here are the appointment chart. You mentioned the historical data, which is, history matters a little bit and should as we look at it. Look at that from Nixon to Trump. How many appointments had been made at certain weeks into being president-elect? Doesn't look like Donald Trump's all that far ahead. In fact, it looks like he's ahead of the curve.
He's ahead of the curve. George H.W. Bush was ahead of the curve, and it looks like Donald Trump's ahead of the curve as well. I mean, if you go back to 1992 with Bill Clinton, he named a 48-person transitional team, and it was a mess. He made his big cabinet picks the week of Christmas. On the 22nd of December, he made his pick for Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State, and then on Christmas Eve, he said who he wanted to be AG and Commerce Secretary. And so this is the end of December, and on Christmas week is when he made his big
Kelly, think about
decisions.
that. Christmas Eve. Imagine if Donald Trump was doing it. I mean, they would go apoplectic.
The press corps would be insane. Yeah.
No, they can't. And they're going insane because he goes out for dinner at the 21 Club. Apparently, that means they're the least transparent administration in history. They can't help themselves, and you're exposing it. Kelly, thank you very much for your expertise this morning. You got it. All right. Are you one of the millennials that's been protesting our next president? That's not protesting, by the way. That's rioting. What if you were told, though, that there's a good chance that instead of being a rioter in 4 years, you might be voting for his re-election? Stick around and we'll explain why. And a big story for the future president. the meetings he will have and some of the surprise names that he's going to be meeting with today. You're going to want to hear this.
This has been going on all over the country. Millennials protesting President-elect Trump across the country, but could his policies actually benefit them more than they even think?
Let's ask the editor of Red Alert Politics, Ron Meyer, joining us this morning from Washington. Good morning to you, Ron.
Morning.
Good morning.
You know, the millennials were pretty fired up about Bernie Sanders, and for you to say now, well, you know, Donald Trump will help them, how do you back it up?
Well, here's the thing. Not only did a lot more millennials support Donald Trump, but here's the thing. You know, you can go out there and protest whenever you want, but the truth is you probably should be protesting actions, not just words that the media is reporting and reporting incorrectly, because guess what? The policies are actually going to help these people that are protesting. If you look at every single issue that affects their pocketbooks, and frankly, social issues too, Donald Trump is going to be with them and helping them, especially when it comes to the things that are affecting them most, whether it's college costs, whether it's health care prices going up through the roof for them, or taxes too.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. Healthcare, as you're mentioning, it's a big one, an area that could benefit millennials. For example, axe the individual mandate, remove price controls. Talk about why millennials should care about this, why this could improve their lives.
Yeah, so for healthcare, Obamacare actually put price controls that makes young people pay more to subsidize the rest of the system. So young people with very little disposable income trying to start their careers, obviously the headlines for the last 8 years have been that there's a lot of underemployment. Obamacare put paying everyone else's higher premiums onto them. And then further, the individual mandate has a fine on there if you don't get healthcare. So you have these poor millennials who are just trying to start and claw their way through life, having either pay a gigantic fine or to pay for healthcare they can't afford.
You wonder why they didn't sign up for Obamacare.
Right. And let me get to college costs quickly, because I mentioned Bernie Sanders. He was talking about free college. Now you're saying privatizing student loans, increasing federal student loan pay cap. Some Trump policies will help millennials. Why?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So here's the thing, you know, free college doesn't change the cost model. So higher education is going to continue rising their tuition, and it just depends on who pays for it. The great thing about Trump's plan is it actually brings college costs down by making higher education accountable. It does it by one key way that I think, I mean, there's a few aspects to it, but one big thing is it actually puts colleges on the hook for student loans with the students and with the loan institutions. So they have a real incentive to actually make sure their kids have jobs when they graduate, to actually make sure that tuition isn't really through the roof.
And finally, Ron, taxes. I mean, that's a huge one.
Yeah, taxes is totally huge, because guess what? Not only are your taxes going to go down, millennials, but also the person that's going to hire you, their taxes are going down, so they have more reason to hire you and to increase your pay and to reinvest in the workforce.
Well, Ron Meyer, thanks for all that. We'll see whether millennials buy in.
Hopefully they're up early this morning watching.
We got to wake them up. Get the alarm clock.
Thank you, Ron.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Donald Trump, meanwhile, looking to unify his party by meeting with one of his harshest critics, Mitt Romney. Could the former governor actually end up being in the Trump administration?
And Vice President-elect Mike Pence tries to have a relaxing night out to see the Broadway hit Hamilton. Instead, though, he gets a lecture from the liberals on stage. We're reading your comments, and they're pouring in when you come back. Stick with us. Meeting with one of his harshest critics, Mitt Romney. Could the former governor actually end up part of the Trump administration? We are covering that today.
And what does the media think about President-elect Trump's pick for Attorney General Jeff Sessions?
He is a fringe choice.
He has been dogged with decades-old allegations of racism.
So there are fundamental concerns among Democrats about Jeff Sessions.
Sure sounds scary, but did anyone bother to check the senator's record? They talked about when they go low, we go high. Not this time.
Maybe they should check that. And Vice President-elect Mike Pence goes out for a well-deserved night on the town, only to get a lecture from Hillary's friends on Broadway.
We have a message for you, sir. We hope that you will hear us out. We are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us.
Your emails are pouring in on this. It's 7 o'clock in Manhattan. We're trying to make 7 o'clock in Manhattan great again. Mornings are better with friends.
We are trying to make 7 o'clock.
Yeah, you better believe
great
it.
again.
This show flies by.
Yeah. It's already great again.
Everyone's talking about this Hamilton story, so we're going to get to that just in moments. And I know our audience, they've sent in a lot of their comments.
Oh my goodness.
I still can't get over what happened. Mike Pence just trying to have a nice night out with his family. We're going to get to that in moments.
Indeed.
But there's a lot going on in politics. Still speculation about the cabinet. Ed Henry's here. Good to see you, Ed, from Washington. Let's start with this, though. President-elect Donald Trump keeping up his busy schedule as he continues to fill out his administration. And today he's got a meeting with former rival Mitt Romney at his golf course in New Jersey.
That's right. Garrett Tenney is live in Washington, D.C. with more on Romney's possible appointment. Good morning, Garrett.
Good morning, Abby, Ed, and Pete. Most people will remember Mitt Romney was one of the most prominent members of the Never Trump movement, even after Mr. Trump had won the nomination. And now he could become President-elect Trump's Secretary of State. Sources close to the transition team tell us the two men will meet this afternoon at the Trump National Golf Course, which is fitting considering how over the years both men have worked out hundreds of business deals on the greens. Romney is one of a number of people being considered for that high-profile position, but we've been told he does command a lot of respect from the Trump team for the predictions he made during the 2012 presidential race about the world stage, particularly about the growing threat of Russia at the time. This meeting, which has come as a bit of a surprise to many, is what the Trump team says this new administration will be about, working with and receiving counsel from allies, rivals, and those on the other side of the aisle. Now, apart from Romney, Mr. Trump has at least 7 other meetings scheduled for today as he continues to look at candidates to fill out the rest of his cabinet. Abby, Ed, Pete.
Boy.
Thank you, Garrett.
Indeed. I think a lot of people, they seem surprised, but if you look at Donald Trump's track record, we shouldn't be all that surprised that he's meeting with Mitt Romney. This is a guy who wants consensus, who behind the scenes wants to hear from divergent viewpoints, and so it's a good thing to see.
It is. It's good to see them breaking bread together, but I think what people are talking about is, you remember just months ago when Mitt Romney did lay out that big speech. Not only did he not endorse Mr. Trump, but he actively campaigned to make sure he wasn't the nominee. I mean, he called him dangerous for this country. I have no doubt that Mr. Trump, knowing his style a little bit, Ed, he's probably going to make him squirm a little bit today and remind him of the things that he said and what he called him. And I'm sure they'll make amends, they'll come together, and ultimately he's going to want to hear some of the things that Mitt Romney feels need to happen for this country.
And I think there are some people in the transition team that I've spoken to who think the idea that Romney will get Secretary of State is an exaggeration, that it might just be kind of, let's break bread, let's make peace, but not actually Secretary of State. Another interesting kind of bit of speculation that's out there is, could Romney head the VA? Because he's somebody who's known for fixing things. Look what he did with the Olympics. You know all about that in Salt Lake City, right? And so if you think about what a mess the VA is right now, and Pete has been documenting this as well or better than anyone, the bottom line is, what a legacy for Mitt Romney and for Donald Trump if their administration could finally fix the VA.
Exactly. You need someone that's willing to take on the bureaucracy, speak honestly, know how to turn it around. Absolutely. Accountability, give them choice. Someone like
someone that represents our veterans more than anything else. That's the most important thing.
And Donald Trump ran on that. He ran on the VA in a way no one else has. So there's an amazing moment there to turn around an institution that's utterly fantastic.
Jeff Sessions is someone who's been nominated. He was really the first senator to stick his neck out there for Donald Trump. And so you knew he would get something big. Immediately, he's labeled a racist.
He's been asked to be the Attorney General.
The Attorney General.
For Mr. Trump. And as you said, he's been loyal to him from the very, very beginning. He's been helping, advising behind the scenes.
New York Times has a blistering editorial saying, as Attorney General, he will not protect voting rights. This will be the worst thing for African Americans. And Luis Gutierrez, who's the Democratic congressman from Illinois, said, quote, if you have nostalgia for the days when blacks kept quiet, gays were in the closet, immigrants were invisible, he says, and women stayed in the kitchen, Senator Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is your man.
Now, you're a good reader, Ed.
I didn't read it as well last time, so I wanted Beauregard. I mean, that is his middle name.
It's not just Democrats, though, Pete. It is the media now that is jumping on this narrative. And why are we so quick to throw the word racist around?
Because it's what they do. If you don't want to take on the policies, if you don't want to have an argument about illegal immigration, if you don't want to have that discussion, then you've got to make them a racist and you got to yell it from the rooftop. And that's exactly what the media is doing. Take a listen to this montage.
Senator Jeff Sessions has accepted Trump's offer to be his AG, but he will now face questions about his record on civil rights.
But he has been dogged with decades-old allegations of racism.
So there are fundamental concerns among Democrats about Jeff Sessions and sort of how he would tackle some of these issues, racial issues, issues of hate crimes.
If you're going to get a couple of loyalists that have said some crackpot things in the past, you sure as hell better have some very steady hands at state, at defense, and at Treasury, or this goes into a full-blown meltdown.
A meltdown. Talk about a meltdown. The front page of the New York Times. Trump selects loyalists. Oh my God, loyalists! He's selecting people who are loyal to him. Pete and I were talking about this before.
Should we put our Fox News alert?
Yeah, what president has not picked people loyal to him?
Let me think. I'm going to pick all the people who opposed me and put them in my cabinet, who aren't going to implement the policies. If you're a conservative who believes that we need to control our border and illegal immigration, then you love this pick by Jeff Sessions, and the media is going nuts. But what they're not talking about is, wait, as U.S. Attorney General in Alabama, he filed several cases to desegregate Alabama schools. Yeah. This is the racist Jeff Sessions, as well as prosecuting a Klansman, the son of a Klansman who led the state, who killed a black teenager, and he made sure that he got the death penalty. This is not a racist man.
I'm going to keep saying this. I think the Democrats got spanked last week in the polls,
but
they've got nowhere else to turn.
Sure.
And so when they see something that they can hammer on with one of his appointees, they're going to run on that, and the media's going to say, "We're going to go with it too."
Well, and
that sounds like a good headline.
And so Jonathan Allen, I know him; he's a journalist in Washington. He is now at Roll Call, where I used to work many years ago, and he wrote a column before Sessions was picked.
It's a preemptive assault.
A preemptive assault, basically saying he's a racist. He said if he was picked for Pentagon Secretary, he might decide to resegregate the military, even though that was overturned by Harry Truman in 48 or something like that.
Resegregate the military. This is what their hypothesis.
So then he decides to go up against our own Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is.
He may not want to do that. He's a tough debater. Take a listen to how this all played out.
If you look at the history and the pattern of Jeff Sessions, he said things over the course of time that should make
You said something really specific. You said he was endorsed by Stormfront. But I'm sure he would disavow that immediately. So why is that fair to write that?
He hasn't disavowed it that I know of.
Oh, so you think he agrees with Stormfront? Is that what you have evidence for that?
I don't know.
Can you name, in the 20 years he has served, 19 as senator, a single instance where he's mistreated someone on the basis of his race? Ever. One.
He was complaining about the idea that that the state of Alabama was going to have to feed and clothe children.
Okay, but
do you think
so that makes him
that's
racist?
such an awful?
I mean, that's your example of his racism?
In 1986, he called the NAACP un-American.
Really?
I'm just glad to find out where that guy works now. Because last Sunday I tuned in. I was looking for Tucker.
Yeah.
I saw this beautiful anchor, and then and Abby was here too. Abby, Abby, the beautiful anchor, was here along with Pete. And Tucker's now doing the 7 o'clock show, and he's doing what journalists do best, which is saying, you wrote a column saying this senator is a racist. Give me one example. It was painful because for 7 or 8 minutes, Jonathan Allen could not name one thing where he's racist. Now, Jeff Sessions said controversial things, 70s and 80s, and he's going to have to account for that in these confirmation hearings. But to call someone a racist and not have a specific example is outrageous.
Well, speaking of calling people a racist, just another thing that happened that we talked about at the top of the show was the cast and crew of the Broadway show, a very famous Broadway show, Hamilton, that's been very successful. I think you've seen it. I have not, but would love to.
Look, it's a great show. It's a great show, and that's the reason why Vice President-elect Mike Pence wanted to go with his family last night, spend a nice Friday night out, thinking this is going to be maybe an hour or two away from some politics to enjoy life. But guess what? It got political and it got awkward, and they, went on stage. You have Aaron Burr. There he is. He's one of the main characters and quite talented, one of the most talented people on stage. Take a listen to what he said on that stage.
Vice President-elect Pence, we welcome you and we truly thank you for joining us here at Hamilton and American Musical. We really do. We are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights, sir. But we truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us.
For the presidency, she got standing ovations. Here, there, she's getting hugs behind stage. You can just see the difference in reaction to both of these folks showing up. You know what, though, this is a great play, and it's a great story about Alexander Hamilton's life. And so I do think there are a lot of positives to be learned from going to the show. It's frustrating that they had to go down that path and say some of those things.
Let's get a quick viewer comment, because it's pouring in. Email from Sherry. I find it distasteful that anyone would take the mic on Broadway to disparage a man they do not know. Apparently, they don't appreciate the journey for democracy they sing about. I've had tickets for months. Now I don't want to go.
And an email from Khalid saying, I think the treatment of the VP-elect was unprofessional and out of line. It's the elitist mentality that got everyone sick and tired of the norm.
Yeah, this is an email from Bart saying, get over yourselves, actors. Your job was to perform in order to entertain, not to lecture. I'm sure the new administration will perform their jobs a lot better than you did your job last night. You can't help but wonder if it were... even President Obama sitting in that crowd. That never would have happened.
Right, if he had gotten booed, it'd be like, oh my God, what a disrespect. How could you disrespect the president?
Yeah,
here's our vice president-elect. Everyone's vice president-elect.
Isn't there a certain level, Ed, of
No, not there.
With his wife.
Not there.
I mean, Ed, you've worked in Washington for a long time. Isn't there a certain level of respect, regardless of what party you associate with, that when you are elected president or vice president here, isn't there that level of respect that everyone
there are a lot of Democrats who feel that President Obama did not get that respect, and so maybe they're going to fire back now, and I think it's going to be pressure on the president-elect and the vice president-elect to bring people together. But you go to a Broadway show, you don't expect a lecture.
Well, no, and just like all the celebrities that try to release all those videos and tell us all how to vote, people don't care.
And all the celebrities endorsed Hillary Clinton, and she didn't win.
Keep singing, keep acting, keep jumping around in tights. That's what you do well, not politics.
Yeah, sometimes the best revenge, as you mentioned earlier, Ed, is winning.
Right.
Well, I mean, nothing you can say to that.
Just think about, I remember LeBron James endorsing Hillary Clinton, having a big event in Ohio. She lost Ohio. Right, all of these states, Philadelphia for Pennsylvania, Bruce Springsteen, big concert, the last night of the campaign. They didn't win Pennsylvania. So the celebrity factor, in the end, let people just enjoy themselves.
Sometimes if it's trending on Twitter, it doesn't really speak to what's actually going on. Maybe.
Shocker. All right. The mainstream media, meanwhile, immediately pouncing on Lieutenant General Michael Flynn's new position on the Trump team. But that's not the whole story. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer's here to set the record straight next.
And I'm sure he will. And more bad news for Hillary Clinton. Santa says she's on the naughty list. Did Santa say that? We're going to find out.